Raheem, man, so good to have you on the show.
Oh man.
Man, it's such a pleasure. Came across you on IG, found your wonderful book, the Black Boy Fly. I want to do that over because I
Yeah, you can.
543. All right. Hey, Raheem, it's so good to have you on the show, man. So excited to have you here with us. Came across you on IG, found you in your book, Black Boy Fly. Thought it was super dope, had some really interesting concepts that really touched me personally. Um, and I just really wanted to like pick your brain and see what you had going on, man, and what got you here.
Most definitely.
You
Most
know,
definitely.
you know.
Ty,
Um,
thank you so
yeah,
much for having me, by the way, man.
of course, man, of course. So for our audience who is unfamiliar with you, can you give them a little bit of a background on who you are? Like, is this your first book? You know, your a
For
little
sure.
bit of your journey.
Got you. So I am currently I'm a first time author. Um I decided to give myself permission to write a story that felt true to my heart. Um, that's how I became an author. However, in my sort of primary job currently, I'm an educator. I'm big on empowering youth, most importantly, Black and Brown youth. Just my biggest thing is finding ways to instill confidence in young people. 'Cause I think it's a muscle that we have to exercise, and it's something that I sort of like have come into my own with, but have struggled with along with in my journey. And what I do is I empower people. However, I give space for both the joy and the hardships of the journey.
Mm,
Because it's one thing to just keep the roses and be like, oh my God, like, like it's so beautiful. It's also like you have to acknowledge the trials and tribulations, the emotions that come over with just pursuing something that people may have not seen you do before or people may have not done before for themselves.
mm,
So it's just like you got to just step into that. How I've come to be an author of this story right here. I'm a squash player, so I grew up in Harlem, New York, born and raised, 131st and 8th Avenue, and it started in seventh grade. My mother decided to sign me up for an after school program called street squash. I had never heard of this sport. I was like, yo, that's some white people stuff. Like, I ain't doing that. And I'm
uh,
sitting in this cafeteria. They make their sales pitch to us all, and I thank my mom so much for this. She essentially gave me a choice. She was like, all right, so you gonna try this sport? I'm like, no, I'm not. But what we agreed to come with was she was like, you're gonna try this for a month. If you don't like it after a month, you could dub it and you could not do it. However, you're not gonna knock something because you've never heard of it or because it's unfamiliar to you. Try your hardest, give it what you got. At least see if it's for you or not for you, and not just going off the assumptions that it's not for you because it's unfamiliar to you.
mm.
Um, I think of a Nas song each time I tell that. It's just people fear what they don't understand. They hate what they can't conquer. Guess it's just a theory of man. He said that on Hate Me Now. So,
I remember that
um,
line. Yeah. That was one of my favorite songs too.
so it started with that, and then from there it grew into a love of this sport. I ended up getting a scholarship to attend a prep school to play squash in
Oh wow.
New Milford, Connecticut. And then I also received a scholarship to
Now,
play at
whoa! You can't just gloss over that. So you went from Harlem to
New
what you
Milford,
call it,
Connecticut.
Connecticut, basically. Yo, that's crazy. How was that transition? Oh my god.
It's it's it was, and like for me, like because seventh, eighth, ninth grade, I was still in Harlem. In 10th grade as well, I ended up repeating. But as you're growing up and you're growing a love for this sport, you also run into the clash of it being different than the norm in Harlem.
Mm,
There's this young teenage feeling of wanting the approval of others. So you're feeling insecure as you're walking around Harlem with your squash bag on, and people are giving you looks like, so why are you not playing basketball? why are you not doing X, Y, and Z instead of oh, you're doing something different, right on. And and again, I still dealt with those demons for me, like inner, because it was like, am I not cool for liking something that not everybody knows of? And they're slightly kind of giving me the side eye when I bring up the enthusiasm about it. Um, so you grapple with that, but you have some friends in the program that kind of keep the fire going. And
Yo, kids, I'm just gonna say, if you're watching this, kids, you gotta. It's better to fit out than in sometimes. Yo, don't let it go. Don't let it.
so it's right on. You hit a nail on the head. And again, it's not that even in doing those things, I didn't struggle with the thoughts. Cause you like, yo, am I doing the right thing? Am I? And then you get those tests of like, are you really a leader? Or are you kind of simply one of those people? Not yet. You might be like at your stage in your journey, you might be a follower.
Yeah.
And you're seeking that approval. And I think at times I grapple with that.
Okay.
So how I ended up sort of with this opportunity to get the scholarship for this boarding school, it was a college prep trip. I went with this after school program called Street Squash. Shout out to them. I was at SUNY Albany, and they made this presentation on a Sunday morning, and they had said a word that I'd never understood before, but it like struck me. There was like academic rigor. And when I heard the word rigor, I was like, yo, what does that mean? Come to find out, it was about being pushed to your limits academically. And I was in like the top 5 percentile of my class, ninth grade, doing my thing. However, I didn't feel like I was being pushed to my maximum capacity. And again, ninth grade me, I think a lot. So it's just like I saw some of the people who were the valedictorians, salutatorians of the high school that I was in, and they would come back to visit. And then it would be like, I'm either on academic probation or I'm struggling so hard with this adjustment to college. I'm like, yo, but you some of the smartest people I knew. So like, what's good? Is it the social adjustment? I don't know. Is it the academic one? And those when the questions started to linger in my mind. It was like, is the school preparing me to simply graduate out of here? Or is it preparing me to do well at that next step?
Oh, I feel that.
And with those questions, I started to ask more people, and then boarding school became an option. So I ended up sort of applying my 10th grade year, but I knew I had to repeat if I were to get in because it was going from public to a private school. I got waitlisted at this boarding school, like the top one that I really wanted to go to. And I thought a wait list was a really nice way of saying no. And I went and failed the next marking period. I failed the class the next marking period. And somehow my mother, who, very busy, 9 to 5, got jobs, she happened to meet the person that I interviewed with from Canterbury. And they was like, yo, we really love Raheem. We want to see his most recent grades.
Oh, no.
So, and again, this was some just it felt like the universe because my mom like rarely go to these events because she's typically busy. She didn't see Canterbury until the day she dropped me off. Yeah. So she trusted me. However, it was like I had to write this page-long letter to essentially explain why I failed the class. Yeah. Because I was kind of like 2 feet out of my high school at the time, like I'm out of here. And then getting waitlisted brought you back down to earth. And then you like, oh, I got to deal with this reality and all the things I had said that I was going to be doing. And then you get rattled. But you also, I had a choice in that moment of taking accountability or deflecting. I was like, nah, like I thought y'all didn't want me. And in an immature way, I reacted immaturely to that. Yeah. And however, that is not the person that I am. And if I'm able to, go ahead.
But the fact that you eventually got in is like, that speaks to the point of you can't always judge people off of their actions. Like, yes, we are all responsible for our actions, but you have to have some kind of grace because like that really is a trauma. Like, I could imagine you being like, nah, I'm out of here, nigga. Like, leave me alone. I ain't gotta blah blah blah. Oh, I ain't gotta listen to you. I'm about to be out of here and doing all this stuff, and now you gotta eat all this crow. Like I definitely would crush somebody, especially a young kid, a young person, right? So I think like just being able to understand and feel that grace for folks that are in that situation. Because I've been in those situations. I know you have. Obviously, you have telling the story, but like everybody's been there, right? So just kind of keep
Mhm.
that in mind throughout life, you know.
You get so hyped about something that you don't even know how to like control the emotions of it, and then it's also being conscious of the people around you that have a different experience than you are with this, and it's like you have to find that balance, and I didn't have that balance.
Oh, but I
And
mean that comes from experience, right? Like, dude, I learned real quick. Yo, I don't share no successes until it's actual success. Like, I'm not telling nobody nothing. Oh man, like I need a dotted line sign. I need cash in the bank. Like
yeah.
nobody, like even my girl, my fiance, she'll be like, "Babe, like what's the good news?" I can't tell you yet. I can't tell you. I can't tell you because I'm not gonna have to come back and have to answer questions about, yo, why this didn't happen. Yo, Ty, I thought you was gonna be doing this, son. I thought you was gonna be doing that. Like, yeah. So yeah, definitely a lesson. Definitely a life lesson for everybody to learn.
Most definitely, man. So I learned it at a young age.
So
And
you
I.
get to this prep school. So you get to this prep school
Mhm.
and you just come from Harlem. What is going through your head when you walk in this first day? So you did get in, right? I didn't want.
So I did get in. My mom, again, the first time her that she ended up seeing in school was the day that she dropped me off. I'm the youngest of three boys, in my sort of like mom side of the family. So I'm the baby. Only one that played squash, and my two older brothers that played basketball. And when I got there, it was just like the first thought, like real talk. It was I think I listened to somebody call their mom by their first name and call her the B word. And I was like, oh, we in like a different part of town now. Like it was like, Becky, like you beat. I was like, yo, like I was like, I couldn't even dare call my mom by her first name. I know she would pull up, skirt, and it'll be done. Like, so I was like, oh. And then you get exposed to different levels of wealth though, too.
Mm.
And with that comes with a different sort of like people's minds just work differently based on their interaction with the world. It was like, and I had to sort of start to reflect of, I know I didn't have, there's so much that I didn't have, like financially growing up, X, Y, and Z. However, there are certain sort of like intangibles that I did have in my neighborhood and that familiar vibe that some of the people that are around me may not have.
Mm.
So it was like growing to understand that as the sort of time went on. So I played squash there. I had sort of like three other squashers from the Bronx who are some of my best friends to this day. So I wasn't in there dolo. So I had that sort of security blanket of like people who really got me, you know?
Mhm.
And like some of them had already been there like a year or two. So it was not as harsh of an adjustment because I had people who knew how to navigate the space and they were willing to share and sort of like school me on some game on how to move.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so with that, played squash for a year. I knew I wanted to sort of like get a scholarship from my mom to not have her deal with the financial burden of college. And I didn't know if squash was that mechanism. So I quit.
Okay.
I
So
quit
quick, quick
squash for a
was
year.
really good at that. You just got a scholarship at to.
Yo, again, it was 10th grade, thing in college, nobody talking to me about that as an option. It was like, I don't know. And that again, those voices and those doubts of am I and when I do it, is that cool? You know, I still had those. Amidst of me moving forward, I still had my own self-doubts.
Okay.
So I was grappling with that and I quit for a year, didn't tell anybody. And it was a cowardice move. Um, and about a year and a half, I ended up sort of like having to have a conversation with my coach about why I had left
Okay.
and not being sure if I could play at that next level or if I was even deserving of it. And I had to talk to this woman, and I avoided talking to her for about a year and some change.
Wow.
I was able to maneuver that, you know, within this small boarding school community.
Yeah.
And it was just like she just wanted to know why. I learned forgiveness for her because like after talking to her and being honest about this, it was, are you okay? And is this what you love?
Wow.
That was her first reaction, not, oh my God, I can't believe you, because I expected that.
Yeah, don't we all?
So I learned forgiveness and someone actually really doing the practice of it, especially in a hard situation. I came back into squash with a more of a clarity on my why. I
Okay.
was like, all right, I know why I'm doing this. And then the next year, sort of, I applied to Wesleyan University, early decision, got in there, and ended up being the all conference selection and captain of the team and doing the things there. It was I had this sort of like, I want people to know I'm from Harlem. I'm not saying New York,
Yeah.
because like when you think New York Times Square, like being, I'm like, nah, I'm from Harlem. So what's up? Like, and I had to find that balance of, and that journey of, I could be competitive and be sort of like driven. However, you could do it with class. You
Yeah.
could do it with grace. And there's a way to do that. And I had to learn that as I went through college, because I was so mad. I was like, "Urgh." And it was like, yo, don't forget to have fun with this game, at the end of the day.
Well,
So
I love your story because it is such a tale of grace and forgiveness and self-reflection and like self-doubt, yes, but the having the fortitude to push past that, right? Or at least work your way through it. Like we're not
mhm,
just saying like, oh, I doubted myself, get over it. Like we're not saying
yeah.
that. But like being able to reflect. And I don't think we talk about that enough, especially like in the black community. Um, I don't know about the other IPOC parts of the community because I'm not from that part, but um like being able to have that conversation of, oh, it's okay to doubt, it's okay to have these issues, it's not okay to just mire in them, right? And that,
Mhm.
again, it's not to say we're just throwing it away, it's to say like having some self-reflection, being able.
Acknowledge the feelings, acknowledge the feels, because you got to be like, yo, this is lonely, or this hurts, or all these things. And it's, at some point you get to the root of it and be like, is this feeling that I'm feeling right now, is it temporary? Is this gonna keep me in place? Because eventually at some point you have to dust the shoulders off and be like, all right, so like, I've given myself the space and time to process what I needed to. So what now?
Yeah.
What's your next move going to be? And what do you want that to be? If you know that you have the agency, this, is this going to keep me in place? Because eventually, at some point, you have to dust the shoulders off and be like, all right, so like, I've given myself the space and time to process what I needed to. So what now?
Yeah.
What's your next move going to be? And what do you want that to be? If you know that you have the agency to sort of do the things. So after that, so again, I'm getting to the sort of book part of this now. So
Well, I mean, like, so with that, okay, so we got into your college, like we got through the college life in squash. So like, were you always trying to be an author, or like were you always trying to be a writer, or was just
no,
it's kind of
no.
like
So,
happenstance?
so it's crazy, it's my senior year. I knew I came to realize that I really wanted to work with youth.
Okay.
I had an internship and I got the opportunity to work at the sort of the program that I came out of, called Street Squad. So I got a chance to do that, and I saw that I was able to communicate with these young people in a way that was human-like, and I didn't talk down to them. I talked to them, and they were a lot more receptive and respectful to me as a result of that. And I was like, I recognized, I was like, oh, they're not talking to me like they talking to these other adults, because like depending on some nonprofits, like there's a lot of white people working with black and brown youth, and they're like, I don't know how to communicate with them. I don't get them. It's like, are you talking to them or are you talking at them?
Yeah. Yes. Oh.
There's a distinction. And while they may not always have the words to describe what they're feeling, they feel that, they feel their intelligence being undermined or underestimated. Like they know what's going on. They're very perceptive.
Or that you even that you they feel like a charity case, or they feel like nobody wants to walk around with people that are supposed to be helping them that always make them feel like they are a charity case. I was just saying, you know what I mean? Like you don't want to feel like, oh, like they just really are feeling so sorry for me. Oh my God, these people here, like that's the worst, man. That's
It's like they don't want to feel like these damsels in distress. Like, you should be grateful that I'm even here doing this for you.
yeah.
Like you should, like, or like, oh my God, like these young children, they're in such trouble and they wouldn't be anything without me. It's like, nah, show grace that without them you wouldn't have a job. One, two, it's also like these are already shiners of light. They already possess light. So what you're doing is orchestrating and facilitating the mechanisms to bring that light out of them.
Yes.
It's not they oh, I'm responsible for it. It's they have it in them, and it is the work to empower them to remind them of what they have that's already within them.
And you're
Um,
giving them, I don't want to say necessarily giving them permission, but I mean, it really is. It's like you're teaching them to give themselves permission to let that light shine. You know what I mean? That's
mm-hmm,
what it is. Is when you say the mechanisms, like I know what you're talking about. I just want to break it down for the layman's. It's just like, yo, a kid, he's got this gift of gab, right? He's a great orator, but all his people clown him every time he tries to do like anything that's a speech, or and I'm not necessarily talking about rap, but like
mm-hmm,
speak, or he wants to be a speaker or wants to be who the press secretary. Like those are kind of their his aspirations, and everybody's knocking it down. So like you're being that vehicle, maybe providing a space or helping them see like, hey, look, this is who is doing this that looks like you. This is who's doing this. Like this is not something that you have to worry about being clowned on. It's again that fit out to fit in kind of deal. It's like, yes, your friends might not always be on board with everything, but guess what? Your friends aren't always going to be on board with everything. And when you become an adult, you're going to realize like your friends are mostly never on board with what you got to do. Like it's always going to be strangers that really uplift you and not saying in a bad way, just kind of how it is, right?
mm-hmm.
Like
And then
they,
then the friends of yours might get down when they see that it's
Mhm.
picking up traction, or they see they're like, how do you do that? It's like, because I ain't listen to you. Like
They
I
listen
was
to you.
listening, like not in like a mean way, but just like, yo, like I could have took the clowning personally and just stopped. It
Mhm.
was like, oh, that's probably not for this person. However, there is still room for an audience.
Yep.
There's someone who might be willing to listen to what I have to say.
Yep. Dude. Ah,
Yeah.
can't say that more better myself, man. I cannot say that any better. I love that. All right. So let's go into a little bit of your authorship. I want to talk a little bit about your book. So this was your first one. Have you but you I'm sure you've done writing before, right? Like
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I like, journal reflecting. I have a blog that I was like kind of like lightly touching up on and do some entries in there. And I tell the squash journey because this author journey came from a friend of mine's from that squash program.
okay.
It seen writing that I'd done on the blog, and it was like, yo, let's do a book for young people. Hit me in the DMs, like, let's do a book for young people, because he was a artist, so like does some sketches and things like that. And he was like, yo, like, let's try to have it be uplifting and have a cool little message with it. I'm like, all right, cool, like, I can do that. And I got so excited by the idea. And what I wanted to talk about in this story was Black boys and their feelings,
Okay.
their emotions, and talking about their emotions, because I think about the levels of which that emotional sort of like just freeness and that understanding of one's emotions, or the willingness to communicate them. For some adults, they didn't have the resources or even the confidence to even talk about those things as young people, and then they grow into adults who are closed off emotionally, and then they might have a woman or a man, however one choose to identify, and like their sexual preference, they leave that to somebody else to deal with. And my journey, because after college, I was a director of squash for 3 years as well, coaching Black and Brown youth at an organization called City Squash in Brooklyn. So the story sort of stemmed from a lot of the emotions I saw that they were grappling with. Like, is it okay to be crying? Is it okay to feel these vulnerable emotions? and reminding them that there's strength in those emotions.
Mm.
There's power in that vulnerability. And it's important that they sort of like tap into that. So I began writing this book, and yeah, it felt so natural. I wanted to talk about navigating the predominantly white spaces. I have a scene in here that's the character Rashad, loosely based on me, loosely based on my youngins that I've worked with throughout the years. And he gets confronted about his blackness, his skin. And what like this scene, it was one of my favorites to write because I could have easily like locker room, no adults around, and some kids get slick out the mouth when there are no adults around. And I have Rashad sort of have to handle this. And I could have easily written like he snuffed the kid and walked out. Could have been easy to do that. But I didn't want to do that. I was like, how can he walk out of this scene with class and grace, but also stun on them?
Mm-hmm.
So like I wrote this sort of like joke about like chocolate milk and everybody loving chocolate milk. And
Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it. They gotta read the book. They gotta read.
You're right. You're right. You're right.
No. They gotta read the book, man.
Nah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
And then we go.
And then another important piece of the book, just without telling it was just in my experience working with youth, it was I wanted to make sure that like what I've seen is sometimes adults tell young people to do things that they had no intention on doing, or that young people don't have the practice on doing. So for example, it's like a kid makes a mistake, say sorry and mean that. Mm-hmm. It's like, are you doing the same thing when you mess up and I see you mess up?
No.
So then it becomes for a young, inquisitive mind that is paying attention, how do I do that in the difficult times, in the hard situations? I need practice with that. I need the models around me to embody that. Otherwise, I'm gonna say that I'm sorry, but like I don't really know the application of that,
Okay.
So that becomes like a point of conversation in the book, because it's like, yo, like if I don't see that from you, how do you expect me to do this?
Yeah, gotta see it to be it. I mean, I
Yeah.
know, hey, but you gotta do it. You gotta see it to be it.
You'd be like, yo, like some adults sound hella hypocritical. It'd be like, don't be judgmental, don't judge. And then it's like, but I'm judging everything and everybody that walks by me. Huh? Like, for me, who was a very observant young person, it was just like, I see some people say one thing and do another, and that always confused me. And that's why, like, for me, as I navigate the world, my word is important. I'm like, I'm not gonna say things I have no intention on doing. All the things. This book was a 2-year project, and I went through an illustrator, and he was kind of like, busy with other things. So it got put on hold, and I had to cut him off. And I thought this story wasn't even gonna come.
Oh wow.
And I ran the New York City Marathon in 2019, and through that training process and finishing, it was like, you could do anything that you set your mind out to do, but you got to put your mind to it. Yeah. I said I wasn't a runner. I said I didn't want to do these things, but it was like, you could do it. And then the mind shifted back to this book. It was like, yo, so this is going to happen. I have to find a way to make this happen. Shout out to my friend Dara Robinson, because she hit me with this illustrator named Devontae Smith, whom I've never met yet in person, but he's from New Orleans, and gave me his contact info, and we just linked, and he ended up being the illustrator of all these amazing images in this book.
Oh wow.
In this cover. So it's like, again, it came with that sort of like conviction and like, yo, so I need to find somebody who's a writer and like actually gonna stay true to their word. And he was very attentive with the process and going about it, and it was cool to collaborate with somebody who is just as hungry for this to come into fruition as I was.
Yeah. And like, that's a great lesson in patience, right? Like, I mean, yeah, you could have, like, of course we wanted it to be done that first time, right? But when it doesn't happen for you, Doesn't mean you have to quit. It just means it's not ready for you right now. You know what I mean? Like you just gotta be patient, not give up, but like also waiting for that next thing to really spark it
Hmm.
out in you, man. That's huge, and I applaud you for that. Like I really do commend you for that. That is super huge. I always want when I'm talking to our authors, always wanting them to have that kind of mindset because it's like, yeah, like that first time you came up with that book, I mean, and I don't know if you hadn't finished writing it, but like maybe you had finished writing it and it was like it came back from the curator and they're like, it's not really it. It's like, okay, well, back to the drawing board. But that doesn't mean it's dead. It just means that we got to reevaluate, put some
Hmm.
more work into it. So I really applaud you for at least for like coming back to it and and having that mindset of never quit, never die. And I'm glad
It,
you found Devontae too.
it's funny because like it was one of those like catch 22s in the sense of I had told people that I was doing this book before it was out. And then it became this like because the illustrator situation happened and you kind of not sure if it's gonna happen. And again, I think I just ran into wanting to stick to my word. It was like, yo, like you say you was gonna do this. So you could follow through on your word and just stay true, or you could not. And no one's hard like they're not gonna blink too much of an eye, and like they're gonna still support you even if you don't do it. But for me, it was more of a personal just battle with myself. Like, yo, this might be a little bit like this is a cool little challenge. Remember how you got here though.
Mm.
You pushed yourself before, so you might have to just if you don't know the answer, you might have to ask some questions. I had at different points I ran into my own stubbornness at times. I'd be so like, oh, like I want to make this happen and I want to learn because I self-published and did those things and I like with the cover and I ran into this like you don't have to do this by yourself because you hear the self-made and you got to be self-made and it's also like yo if you want to go far go with other people. Like if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And just finding those collective of people because they may be able to see a lens or an angle that you may have not been able to look from. And you could just be appreciative of that. Or maybe they have a talent that can be complementary or just in supplement to what you're already doing to be like, yo, this could be even better.
Ooh.
And you gotta put that pride aside because I felt that
But
inner
pride
battle.
is crazy, especially like when it's something like it's yours.
Yeah, you know.
You're like, all right, I'll give you a little bit, but it's like, nah. You're like, nah. You just gotta just be like, here you go, here you go.
Yeah, man. So,
Really, I feel that to the core, bro. I ain't even gonna lie. I feel that to the core.
so yeah, you had to just again. It's just before I hit the submit buttons for even this book to be official and into the world. I had a massive imposter syndrome moment too.
Yeah.
It was like because I had never done a book before. You know, I write some blog posts, I write some poetry, and you kind of just also just like grasp with yourself. You like is anybody gonna rock with this? Like, what is this gonna look like? You know, and I ran into
Your business being an author, like
yeah, you like yo me
qualified me.
me
Yo, you know the craziest thing? So I mean, like everybody else, I've had imposter syndrome too. But I saw a movie credit one time. I can't remember what the movie was because that the movie wasn't that good actually. But I looked at who directed. It was back when I was like really trying to like figure out my own director style and all this stuff. So I looked at this movie and I looked at who the director was, and I looked her up and found out she ain't never directed a movie. Like this is like a $20 million budget movie, like big budget, just a terrible movie. But this lady directed a whole movie, and her only experience was that she was a writer for the LA Times. Like that was her job before that. And that right there, I was like, you know what? I don't care. Like I'm qualified. I'm qualified. Whatever happens, I'm qualified. LA
yo,
Times writer can be a director. I
yo.
am 100% qualified.
And it's sometimes just those like in because you just be like, oh, you gotta just shoot your shot.
Mhm.
You just gotta shoot your shot and like make sure it's one of your best shots, like, but also know that in the pursuit of mastery, you just have to make sure you're putting up attempts.
Mm-hmm.
Because like it's like this is my first book, but won't be my last. You know, this is that first person's movie. There's a little warm up. They got a little, like experience under their belt, and then it's like, all right, so like if you want to do more, the option is there.
Yep.
Um,
And remember, like Steph didn't hit 103 straight threes in a row his first time. Like they caught that on video, but like think about the 30 years of shooting up shots to get to that point. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
You gotta put in that work. Put it in that work.
And her said this on a BET cipher, the R&B artist
Yeah.
her. It was like you could follow behind, but you can't cheat the grind. And it's like people become so enamored with someone's like shining moment, but it's like it's also like, what did your first step look like for you? And whatever that passion looks like for you.
Yep.
I think all other people and artists and what they I think hopefully energize other people to think is just like be yourself.
Yep.
That's their manifestation of self. That doesn't have to be yours, but you have to figure out what that looks like for you.
Yep.
And with this, before I hit the button on this book, it was just like, all right, are you leading with love? Yes. And do you believe in it? Yes. And if I could answer those two questions, then it's like, give yourself the curiosity to figure out what's on the other side of this doubt that you have. Because you don't have no, like, and this is self doubt that you kind of created on your own and you realize it was a fragment of your imagination. Because you're like, yo, I do things authentically. I lead with grace. So this is how I do things. And even if somebody doesn't like what I'm doing, the best way to respond to that is I would love to see your version of this. And I can't wait for you to create it.
I would love to see your version.
And
That's
there's no disrespect. It's just like, oh, like you didn't like what I did. This is my manifestation of truth right now. And that's okay. I'm so excited for you to create something that you might deem better, and you just keep it pushing.
and we can talk about it, and we can have a great discussion on it.
You don't stress too much when you have that mindset because it's like not everybody gonna like it, or somebody might just they might feel a way about you embodying the confidence in yourself that they wish that they have. Or
I mean, most of that hate is projection. That's why people, we always say, thank my haters because they're projecting all this onto me.
and you just wish peace for them. You like, yo, I wish the clarity for you to like, because people be so focused on looking on others. It's like, yo, when like a friend told me this, you point one finger at somebody else, 3 point back at you. So then it's just like, all right, so like, what about you? Because you're doing a lot of like talking about other people. So what's your story? What you looking to do? Because you're doing a lot
You're
of
even talking stuff about me anyway. You're just putting my name in your mouth, proliferating us anyway. Like you're just like now somebody who had no idea. Oh, you see what this dude did? He's a sorry, why did I make that voice? I don't.
No, I love the authenticity because I make some of those voices sometimes too. So you are all good.
Oh man!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
I'm gonna get the comment. I'm gonna get the comments. They'll be like, "Why you acting like that, Ty? Why you gotta sound like that, Ty?" That's what I put on my snacks voice. Be like, "Hey, you seen that dude over?" Oh man! Oh my goodness! All right, so we're kind of getting close to the time. I don't want to hold you very long, but I wanted to say, since you are a first-time author, what would you say would be? You can say more if you have them, but what would be your top like pitfall to avoid as a self-publisher for the first time? Or what did you experience?
I think what I experienced was you got to take your time. You got to take your time, but also not getting so encapsulated in your own head that it doesn't come out.
Okay.
I think just like because I ran into my own doubt, and then you start sharing glimpses of the story with people, and they have their takes on it, and you take the advice with a grain of salt because it's also like it's not going to be for everybody. What you're doing is not going to be for everybody. So depending on where somebody else is at on their journey, they might give some constructive criticism, or they might not give criticism, critique that you like. And with that, it's like you do with that what you will. This is someone else's opinion that they decided to share with you. If it applies, then you make the necessary changes. But if you feel like you still trust in it, then still move forward. If multiple people are saying the same thing, then it's also like, all right,
okay, maybe you should listen.
yeah. So I might have to look at this. If everybody looking at the same sort of point of reference, but if you're getting different touch points from other people, it's how like just finding that balance.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah,
and
my mom
then
always said it, yo. She said, "Take what you can use and leave the rest."
and then I would say just another point, just for being a self-published author, is ask the questions. Try to find the people who have done this before. Cause like I got help from this woman named Ola who um she done a series on for like young black women. And she had went to my alma mater, and it started off with me just reaching out to her. Like we wasn't the closest of friends at Wesleyan. She was a few years ahead of me, but I was like, all right, like I respect what you're doing, and I want to be able to do this in my version. How do I go about this? She gave me a variety of different options and where to look, some pitfalls. Make sure you get the copyrights.
Copyrights, absolutely.
Make sure you get the copyrights. That is a point of advice I didn't even think about, because she was like, yo, like again, there are some people who are really well intentioned, but there's some people who like if you ain't got the rights to your stuff, they could be like, nah, that's mine, and then you'd be like, hold up, what? That fortunately didn't happen to me, but just in the sort of sense of urgency that she told me this advice, it was like, oh, all right, like I hear you loud and clear. Um, yeah, so it's that, and then I have this online distributor called Ingram Spark that I used, and I would say what I'm doing now, because it's sold over 1,000 copies and it's been out like 3 months. I've been fortunate about that. I was expecting just one. I was like, if one person is touched by it, then that's more than one person with me not doing anything at all. But what I've been doing is just getting some orders myself at a cheaper price and then just selling them like almost like out the trunk type thing, but also just being realistic about how much I want to carry in terms of that profit for self. So again, depends on preferences because Amazon takes a whole bunch of money out.
Well, that's why everybody's joining Listen Black. You know, that's why everybody's joining Listen Black, because we don't take all of your money. And
yeah. So it's like because you look at how many copies are sold, and then you look at the cost of the book, and then you look at the percentage that has been taken out, and again, you feel a way about it.
You want to throw up. You want to throw up.
Yeah, I didn't like to like. I'm gonna be honest though, like my friends told me like you kind of thought small with it. I was kind of like, yo, I do something for my people, like, and this is the idea that kind of came out. However, just to see how many people it's touched, like I got people in Compton, California that have read my book and like it is rock with them and they're sharing it with their young people, some educators. So it's just like you never know. You never know. And it's almost like you could underestimate yourself, but the world paying attention when you lead with love and you lead with that authenticity of your voice. I tell people this and I hope people take this nugget. It's like there's no one else like you on this entire earth, nor will there ever will be ever again. So it's like when you recognize that power and the uniqueness of self, because they're very much like similar duplicates, like, but it's in terms of constructed exactly like you, there's no one else here.
That's true.
Like that. So what is the story that you want to tell?
Yeah.
Whether it's through a book, through a film, through a podcast like Listen Black, like whatever the mechanism or the driver that is for you, just make sure that you like know that you gotta like be passionate about it and be like you said, can't cheat the grind. You can't cheat the grind.
Got to do it.
You gotta do it. And
You stop complaining about it, the sooner you get done with it.
people, sometimes people would be like, I ain't got the time to do X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, like I try to just challenge people to be more responsible. It's like you have the same 24 that everybody else got. It's you choose, like you got different choices with what you choose to do with your time. But you ain't, it's not like you don't have the time. And again, some people have certain situations in which they're constantly busy, but I think about it like I got 24 and I'm sleeping for X number of those. However, with the time that I am awake, how am I intentionally doing that? You know, um, they, I have this quote in my crib of the extraordinary comes from doing the seemingly ordinary as consistently as possible. Like give yourself room for rest and taking the exhale. That's why I wrote consistently and not every day. But it's like you just do the ordinary things on a consistent basis. You lay your bricks down and then you look up like, damn, we got a crib? I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, you look up and then you never know how long it's gonna take, and it's okay. You can't worry about that part. All you can worry about is doing the work.
Yeah.
Going
It's
day and doing the work is all you can control.
and you can't control what people are gonna think of it. Cause you might be like, yo, this is my most passionate project I've ever done in my life. And then it's like some people might be like, man. And that's not even up to you.
Now you're like, no.
It's this detached passion that you like. I'm just working to have for it. It's like, yo, like I know I'm passionate about this, and I know I trust what it is that I'm putting down. However, like not everybody gonna rock with it, and that's okay. Life still goes on.
And the
You
stuff
wake up.
that you think sucks, people gonna love. Like I love to tell her, like Miley Cyrus hated what is it, Party in the USA. Hated it. Oh my god, I hate this song. It was like 2 years, like top of the chart. Right?
She ain't losing no sleep over Ty not liking Party in the USA.
Just give it up. Just give it out to the world, man. Give it all away. Oh no, man. I'm gonna stop being so extra.
And
Ah,
and then I'll say another thing too. You never know how inspired other people could be by you choosing to move in the direction of your passion.
yep.
You might ignite that, like, oh, it's possible to even do that, and that might mean something different to whoever, but that might give them the force to go follow through on their passion project.
Yep.
They might come to ask you like, yo, I got this book idea. Like, I'm like, all right, like I'm always for the building. I want to empower people to use their voice and understand the power of their story.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh word, like I'm so glad that that resonated with you to compel you to want to move forward with your things. So yeah.
Dude, man. This has been great. I have appreciated your time, my brother. Dang. Y'all check out Raheem, man. Check him out. Black Boy Fly. You can get it at its. We'll give you the show note. We'll have it down in the show notes for you. But
Yeah.
man, just you got a beautiful soul, my brother. I appreciate it. I got some folks on you to link you up with too, because I know some folks that are like super like-minded that you need to be talking with.
Most definitely, yo. It's again, I love the sort of, and thank you for having me, by the way, Ty. It's like it's crazy. I'm gonna keep it 100. Like I'm in the process of just really establishing, like I'm a creative, I'm a writer, like stepping into this space, and I made my separate email simply for my writing, and I got the email to come on, and I was just like, oh my god, like this is like one of the first times I checked it in a little bit, and I was like, oh, I was like, somebody wants me to be on their podcast. Oh, word, like. And then you see Listen Black, I'm like, oh yeah, bet, say less, like because I'm all for empowering our people. Not that I have anything against anybody else, but like,
oh, but look, we need it. It's overdue.
say less. So you know, it's and yeah, so it was just like I'm so fortunate for the opportunity and just the giving of the space, and time is that greatest currency that like you can't get back. So I'm fortunate that you even wanted to share this space and time with me, and to listen.
Yeah, man. It's been a pleasure.